Well, our next session, where do we like to put content? We like to put it on mobile, we like to put it into our algorithms, but most importantly, we like to put it into out of home. And our next panel, it's been 2 years, well, my 2 years since I've been here. We haven't had an out of home panel since, so I put my hands up and say sorry for that, but we've managed to find a perfect panel and one that is going to take us through what is happening in that sector of the industry at this present moment. And to lead that discussion and chair this session for me is Annie Ricard, the Global President of Posterscope. Welcome to the stage, Annie.
So thank you very much. Thank you, Jeremy. Good morning, everyone. I think it's just about still morning. The three speakers here with me this morning, between them, account for a significant percentage of the world's out-of-home. Starting from the left is Matthew Dearden, who's the president of Clear Channel Europe and a member of the Clear Channel International Leadership Team. Matthew joined the out-of-home industry, having spent many years working in the telecoms business, and so he brings very much a sort of marketing and client perspective to our industry. Sitting next to Matthew is Suzy, who's the Director of Commercial Strategy for Exterion, and Suzy's background has mostly been in media agencies, but recently she's joined the out-of-home industry, and she's responsible for long-term planning and developing new revenue streams for the business. And then finally, David McEvoy, who's a veteran of the out-of-home industry, like myself. He's been with JCDecaux for over 15 years. And interestingly, recently, he set up the first editorial content division in an out-of-home media owner, providing monthly content strands. What we're going to do is each speaker is going to give you a perspective for a few minutes, and then we've got a few questions that I'd like to put to the panel. But before we do that, just as a scene setter, I think the one thing that we can all agree on here in Rome, whoever we are, is that we are living in a time of unprecedented change. In fact, the World Economic Forum in Davos earlier this year referred to this change as the fourth industrial revolution. Such is the scale and such is the size and scope of this change. Increasingly, people and things are becoming more and more connected. If in 2015, 3 billion people were connected, we estimate that by 2020, 50 billion people and things will be connected. And by 2030, it could be as much as 1 trillion people and things connected. We call this the Internet of Everything. This has to be really good news for out-of-home because everywhere around the world, more and more people are spending more and more time out of home, and they're increasingly connected using their smartphones. If you add to this the significant investment that all of the out-of-home media owners have been making in digital over the last 5 years, this does also add to that sort of feel-good factor for out-of-home in the new digital economy. However, we know that the real growth areas in marketing spend are in data, in personalisation, and we heard earlier, even personalisation in the moment, mobile geo-targeting, and content marketing. So how does out-of-home connect with these areas, these 5 growth areas, and support them and feed off them? And given all the levels of investment and the scene setting that I've just done, are we in as good a place in out-of-home as we could be or should be? And so I'm going to ask Matthew from Clear Channel to give you his thoughts.
Thank you, Annie. So, as you alluded to, I spent most of my career on the client side as a marketing director. So I thought I would start by thinking, well, what are clients saying and doing? And I saw last year a global media director for a major client say, of course, we are in the fourth industrial revolution, the digitization of attitudes and economies. But it's not so much about digital media as media in a digital world. So the way I would answer the question about how is out-of-home helping clients build their brands is to say, well, what are clients voting for with their wallets? And what we see over the last 5 years, sourced by Magna, is that out-of-home has been the fastest growing offline medium globally for the last 5 years. And if we look forward, their forecast for the next 5 years is that it will continue to be the fastest growing offline medium. And it will actually overtake desktop online, which moves into decline globally. What grows fast is mobile, which I'll come back to. So I think if we look at what clients are doing, clients are voting with their wallets to say that in this digitizing world, out-of-home has an increasingly important role for them. And if we think about why that is, I think there are timeless fundamental strengths of out-of-home, being able to deliver a large audience in a receptive frame of mind who are ready to move into action. And there's study after study that shows the effect of that. And we've been able to bring to it, in more recent years, increased data that enables tighter targeting and proximity, which I think has given them the ability to have great creative standout. We talk about the power of the public promise, and knowing that we've all seen the same ad creates an emotional momentum for a brand. And as we move into a digital revolution in out-of-home, we can enhance that, both for the creative and for the media planning. So, for example, we've been proud when I joined Clear Channel UK, we were less than 5% of our revenues were digital. This year, they'll be over 50%. So we're really proud to have been leading a digital transformation. But I think the disruptive point is that it's not so much about the screen. I think the screen is the visible part of being a digital business. But for us as an increasingly digitally oriented business, it's about everything you do behind the screen. It's partly the technology. It's mostly the attitudes, the business model, and the data that you plug in. I know you have some great examples on data, for example. And I think that transforms the way clients can use the medium to build their brands. So for me, technology isn't the be-all and end-all. If anything, I think it gets in the way. It's how we unleash the potential to better connect brands with people. If I can talk briefly about mobile, for example. Mobile's hugely fashionable. As a consumer and as a marketer, I love it and I think it's fantastic. But to be provocative, I think mobile is a terrible advertising medium. Most of the advertising that I see on mobile, I think is disrespectful of the consumer experience, of their bandwidth, of their screen size, of the experience they're trying to have on their mobile site or their app and so forth. So I think mobile advertising has not come of age. On the other hand, I think mobile is a fabulous engagement medium. And so the natural experience for a consumer when their interest is piqued by something, when they're interested to follow up, very often prompted by an outdoor ad, is to reach for their mobile. So I see the future growth of mobile that Magna are predicting is very positive for out-of-home because it is the natural technological partner to drive the deeper engagement that out-of-home delivers par excellence. So I think the changes you describe, Annie, are real, are very exciting for us. It is partly about how we drive the technology. I think it's mostly about our future challenges in industry, is how we change our digital mindset to better serve the advertisers.
So a digital mindset change is as critical, really, as the developments in technology
Even
if
more
we
so.
want to really succeed
Absolutely.
in a digital economy.
Absolutely.
So Suzy, one of the growth areas is data, and I suspect every single presentation in Rome over the next 2 days will have some mention of data in it. Data and out of home, how does that work in your view?
Well, I think what digital has done generally is raise advertisers' expectations in terms of what they get from audience insight and accountability. And for us, data and data partnerships really help address that. So at Exterion Media, for example, we've partnered with Telefonica, and they've helped us create a tool called ABI, which is short for Audience Behavioural Insights. And this gives us access to aggregated anonymous data from Telefonica's O2 network in the UK. And what this has allowed us to do is to understand demographics and behaviour of the audiences on the London Underground, which is one of the key environments that we sell advertising in. What this means we can do is we can make our campaigns much more targeted, we can segment that audience and in turn deliver much more relevant and contextual advertising to those audiences. And you talked a lot about mobile, and I think mobile for the out-of-home industry has been a brilliant enabler. So as well as giving us audience insight in the way that we get it through Telefonica, what it has allowed us to do is to make out-of-home more actionable and more accountable. So I think what mobile helps out-of-home do is it acts as that bridge between the physical assets that we sell and the online world where people can take some action. And I think technology such as beacons and NFC is what really helps that. So we've had great success with campaigns on our London buses, which we've beacon enabled. A recent campaign for the film Kung Fu Panda meant that consumers on those buses were driven to look at more film content on their mobile from that film, and they could even buy their cinema tickets straight from the campaign. So we've seen really encouraging results from that. I think mobile, again, really helps from a research and accountability point of view as well in out-of-home. So Outsmart, who are the UK's out-of-home industry body, have just carried out some research looking at brand actions taken as a result of out-of-home advertising, and that saw a 17% uplift in brand actions from people who'd been exposed to out-of-home. So that's people going straight onto their mobiles and either searching for a brand or going directly to that brand site. And I think those kind of technological developments really help us make this medium more accountable than it ever has been before.
I think that everywhere I look, I see really positive results from out-of-home and mobile working so well together. Perhaps this is something we should shout about louder, because I'm not sure people are aware just how good those two work together. David, you've set up this new division, content division, so it would be really interesting for the audience to hear where you feel if content marketing is increasing area for spend, how can out-of-home deliver on content marketing?
Okay, sorry, thank you for that. And Annie was very kind, saying I was a veteran of the outdoor industry with 15 years service. I actually did another 10 years in a billboard company before that and 10 years in television. The photograph there looks exactly the same as I've always looked, the blue suit, the white shirt, but for the digital economy, I've taken off my tie. There's a nod to my new focus. I think we talk about the 3 Ds in my business: digital, data, and then distribution. Everyone's talked a lot about digital. We've built out screens everywhere. New York City. If you'd come to Rome in a few months' time, we're building out digital on the Rome Metro, the Naples Metro. And next week we go live with 50 screens on Oxford Street. And I'm changing what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a shop owner next week because I've rented a shop on Oxford Street, opposite Selfridges, where we're going to have a whole area dedicated to digital content and what you can do on the streets. I think what's quite interesting is that Suzy talked about the second D being data, and I'll concentrate a little bit more on the delivery. And the delivery of that is getting the right content to the right screen at the right time, which gives relevance and context to everything that we do. But before I talk about that, I think the big thing that's happened in my business is that we've had a huge influx of new talent into the business. People that I would never expected to come and work for an outdoor company. So just recently, a guy called Mark Costa became our first, this is a new term for me, CDO, our Chief Digital Officer in the States, and he came from a mobile programmatic platform background. We have a content division, which is it's got press people in it. They do editorial. We've just taken the creative technologists out of a huge creative company called BBH, and they've now joined us as a business. We've got people from VCCP joined us, people from Disney. And why are they doing this? Because they actually see a huge potential in the growth of out-of-home, especially in the digital economy. So we now have people who are creating content. So on the streets at the moment, I've got ads going out for Shakespeare, 400 years of Shakespeare, and it's celebrating the weather. So in Glasgow, it's got, if it raineth forever. If anyone wants snow, comes from Taming the Shrew. And the great thing about our technologist, actually, his previous job, he used to work in the Met Office. So we know the weather down to every 100 metres in the country. And we're serving content that is linked to sort of location. I think what's, rather than me say it though, a huge endorsement is a lady called Lorraine Toohill. She's the global marketing director, or probably vice president marketing of Google. And she said she's hugely excited about the joining of the physical and the virtual world. And she is likely to be the largest spender in out-of-home. And what she said is, she says she sees the day when there's a cockpit, she can take from her creative, her storytelling, which we heard a little bit about previously, and she can seamlessly and automatically send it to screens sequentially, whether it's the largest billboard or the smallest smartwatch. Getting the right content to the right people at the right time and in the right place. And I think that's what's exciting a lot of people to come and join what was the oldest medium, but now has probably the media with the most potential.
So we've got, we're hearing that there's actually quite a lot of data being used in out-of-home, whether it's mobile data to actually assist in understanding the audience, or whether it's weather data to trigger content. We've got dynamic content being delivered. And it seems that out-of-home and mobile, in particular, work really well together. So really positive signals for out-of-home going forward. I think that we have to talk about the P word while we're here this morning. And by P word, I mean programmatic. So what are your perspectives on where we're going, how quickly should we, can we, when go programmatic and out of home? I'll start with you, Matthew.
We're huge believers in programmatic. We also believe that if you ask 10 people what is programmatic, you'll get 23 different answers. So we want to be careful about what we mean by that. We've seen a lot of online publishers get eaten up with the race to the bottom and not having the courage to truly understand the value of what they're selling. So we think that this is what programmatic should be about, is helping advertisers and their agencies make it easier, simpler, faster to buy better, smarter outdoor campaigns. And done right, that creates value for everybody. So we're hugely positive about it. It doesn't necessarily mean we move straight to algorithmic trading. That's probably towards the end of the evolution. I think it moves to automating current trading and making current planning more sophisticated. So they've both given great examples. We've been able to fuse mobile data with purchase panel data from supermarkets right down to our individual sites, so you can tailor your campaign in real time based on consumer behavior. We've been able to trigger a campaign in Singapore for sunscreen based on the UV levels, or in the UK for a hay fever tablet based on pollen. We can do temperature. There's so many different things that you can use as a trigger. And so for me, the real value in programmatic is to make outdoor easier to buy, but also to make it more sophisticated to buy so that we better meet the advertiser needs.
And Suzy, what are your thoughts? Do you have anything you want to particularly add to what Matthew said or disagree with?
I wish I'd known about the pollen count this morning, so apologies for my coughing and spluttering, but there must be a high pollen count here. I agree broadly with what you're saying. I think, to use the J word, programmatic is a journey, and it's not an immediate overnight journey. And I think our start point is the automation of existing processes, driving efficiencies, but it's going to be an interesting period, I think, for out of home.
And David, we've seen your CEO, newly appointed CEO, Spencer, recently say publicly, I think programmatic is an overused word in out of home. What does he mean by that? And what's the Decaux position?
It's probably, I'll just reiterate a little bit what Matthew said as well. I think it's the word programmatic. So I think the way that we see it is we are building all of the pipes at the moment to make everything much more seamless to be able to do in our business. And that's worldwide. So we talked a little bit about content. So we've built a content management system which allows the seamless transfer of ad from screen to screen. So I think what we'll see is in the future that we will have much more automation in our business. There'll be less objection to be able to doing it. There'll be a huge data-led strategy which will allow us to get the right content to the right person at the right time. And probably Lorraine Toohill, who said it at Google, that's what she said. She can see that here when she's in her cockpit. An outdoor is part of the whole screen-based story that they're doing. I just wish I'd come up with a smart name for my content division, like Truffle Pig or something like that. But unfortunately, I wear a tie, so we called it the content division.
So, as we're here, I might as well go on the record from a buying perspective on programmatic. I think we absolutely have to automate more of our business. Many of us are still operating in the same way as we did 25 years ago. So we do need to move faster, I think. And we need to have real-time availability so we can deliver faster solutions, and we need to have consistency on real-time content delivery as well between the businesses. So I broadly agree with what you're saying. I do feel, though, that the industry needs to move faster in this space. Going on to something quite different, out-of-home used to be considered as the creative's favourite medium. It would seem to me that we've lost some of that perspective and that reputation. Do you agree with that? Is there something we can do about it? And I'll start with you, Suzy.
I think maybe creativity has fallen by the wayside, and this desire to be really techie has taken over. So I think great examples of campaigns that we would probably all name are more about data and tech capabilities in out-of-home than they are about true old-fashioned creativity, I suspect. I think there are probably some advertisers who are still being very creative. So Apple, for example, are about, it's brilliant imagery, beautifully presented. But I think it's probably incumbent on us as an industry to go out and engage with the creative agencies, to show them what's possible, to talk to them about our environments, to talk to them more about our audiences, because they probably have the perception of us as a brilliant channel for delivering mass reach rather than anything a bit more bespoke than that. So I think, we need to be out there talking to them. It's sometimes difficult to get in to do that, but, we need to keep banging down the door until they listen.
And David, anything to add to that?
I remember from the past, the quote was, got a great idea, show me the poster. Because the poster used to be the essence of your idea, because you had to distill it in a few words in a simple visual image. And obviously in the world of tech, things have changed somewhat. But I think I was listening to the Chief Marketing Officer of Bacardi on this stage, who says, my brand's in it for 20 years. So I'm building my brand for 20 years. And it's the big idea behind that brand that's really important. And we used to be the medium of the big idea. And I think we can actually get that back with the new capabilities that we have for huge personalisation of scale, and actually then to be able to tie in with all of the other activity that's happening in the digital sphere. So I think the omens are really, really strong for our medium: mass reach, personalisation at scale, and a platform for the big idea.
And Matthew, your thoughts on our creative reputation as a medium?
It always used to be the medium that a great creative team wanted to prove what they could do. I think if I'm brutal, sadly, we've become distracted by people love to see their ad on telly. People love to see some clever use of technology online. And some of it's great, but I think in many cases, the production values of a TV ad or the clever technological tricks of an online ad are getting in the way of brutally brilliant creativity. So talking to Steve Renakis, who runs Google UK's marketing, for example, he's publicly, explicitly clear that if somebody in his team has an idea that they think is a big idea, the first test for them is draw the poster. And if you can't boil it down to a poster, it isn't a brilliantly simple breakthrough idea. And I think there's a lot of value in that. If it's too complex to communicate as a brilliant, simple image and simple copy line, it probably isn't a breakthrough idea. It's probably too complex. So I think a poster does set a high bar for a creative team. If it isn't truly great creative, it will fail. But if it is truly great creative, it shows the right showcase. I think as an industry, we probably have an obligation and an opportunity to better showcase that work. I think we may collectively have undersold the opportunity to celebrate the great creative that we do still see out of doors. Both some of the brilliant one-offs where we had a little boy posting at a British Airways plane and actually able to say it's that plane where it's come from. And also the bigger scale plays. I love the Lurpak creative, for example. And I think we should do a better job of celebrating the creatives that are able to generate that great content. Yes,
I think that it seems to me that we should be shouting a bit louder about a number of things in our medium. It would seem that as we go into the digital economy, out-of-home is well placed. We've talked about data, we've talked about content, and I think we're just starting to see what's possible from delivering real-time content. And we've talked a bit about how we can also, the importance of location and how out-of-home can deliver in that space. given the potential opportunity, my last question to each of you is, in your view, and we'll start with you, Matthew, and work through, what's the one thing that we must do to ensure that we optimise this opportunity?
Well, I think we have to come back to our confident articulation of out-of-home as a powerful medium that builds brands and drives activation. And I think if we, as a medium, can understand and live to our connection to our obligation to build brands for advertisers working with their agencies, and sing that loud and clear, celebrating the creative, celebrating the brand building and the activation potential, and seeking to create commonality rather than difference across the out-of-home medium, I think that would be very powerful.
I'd say to collaborate more. So both as an industry and to collaborate with clients, media agencies and creative agencies to get the best out of the medium. I think to do those campaigns like the BA Lookup, like various creative ones we've done, it's really hard work and you have to really be determined to make that happen. And I think doing that in collaboration as a kind of cross-agency, client, media owner team is the way to do that.
Okay, I think we're a legacy business because we've been doing posters for a long time. So there's a mindset change that we have, internally, culturally, that we have to make within our business. And I think we're changing that with the sort of talent that we're bringing in to our business, across all of our businesses here. I was very lucky last week to be invited to Annie's office to be a judge for the Dearden Aegis briefing process. And there's two briefs, one for Camelot and one for Oreo. And this was from the teams, not just at Posterscope. No, Posterscope were mentors, but Cara, Visium, the digital teams, the storytelling teams and everything. And they had a digital brief where they took the world of out-of-home and the world of, online as well. And the talent was absolutely amazing. I was spellbound by some of the presentations that people gave. They got the big idea, they got the medium. So if I can preach to, some of the people in the room, that collaboration across all of the disciplines was the thing that sort of like brought some of those great ideas to life. So thank you.
I don't disagree with that. I think, working in a transversal way is essential for the future. And I think that in out-of-home, we've probably a bit behind on that. We've tended to be a bit siloed. There is a lot of new talent coming into the business. And I agree with you, Suzy, that collaboration is key. So I would agree with everything that you guys have said. I've been such a tyrant in advance of this session to get these people to stick to the time that we've done incredibly well. We've got 1 minute, 52 seconds spare. If anybody's got a question, I think we'd be delighted to take it. Oh, we've got a hand up there.
Hi, I'm Liam. I run a startup in the digital out-of-home industry, actually. And I wondered what your thoughts were on working with startups and newly emerging technologies, considering you're such titans in terms of companies yourself.
Yeah, so one of our strategic pillars is innovation. And we think that very often comes externally from startups rather than internally from headquarters buildings. So it's something that we actively seek to do. And when we're looking to create new digital capability, we've quite often done that. We've taken the risk of buying in startup technology or licensing in startup technology, which is a risk, doesn't always work, but we think that's better to create a truly new world rather than trying to tweak an old one. So we're quite excited about exploring what's possible.
So startups are really, really important to us as a business. We have a division called Nurture. And Nurture is all about nurturing the new sort of like that talent that's coming through, especially in the tech business. So I think a couple of weeks' time, I'm speaking on at Tech City at an event there, talking about the world of startups in our business. So we do some sort of like partnering, media mentor, media matching for those companies as well. And recently, when we brought on a new team, we took on a loft. So we've now got a loft space. So we're sort of like trying to embrace the world of startup as well and bring a startup mentality into what we're doing.
Excellent. Thank you very much, all of you, for being here and being so incredibly good on your timekeeping and content. And thank you all very much for attending our session.